Let me know if you are hearing us now. The song should be on. Guys, let me know if you are hearing now, if it is loud and clear. Okay, so John Jones is saying, there we go. Hey, Judith David joining us from Bartica this morning. Beatrice Selby say, I'm hearing you now. Thank you so much for that feedback. Loud, yes, Marine Paul. Thank you always for the feedback. Sherrod in then Judith is asking. Sherrod has a new habit of being a little late, guys. So I told you guys you got to speak to him about that. We're not gonna be encouraging it for long. I see Diane Fordyce is on this morning. Hey Diane, how are you this morning? And I see Alexis Williams. Guys, as you know, we want to know where you're joining from. Very important to us that we understand what is our reach and how far we are being heard and how far this message is going over. So make sure that you tell us in the comment section where you're joining from. And also remember to share the live stream. It is absolutely important that you share the live stream. So for folks now joining us, I'll say welcome once more to FYI. For your information, I am Joretta Fernandez with you this morning, Friday the 8th of April 2022. The year is going by so quickly and we definitely have so much to get done. We are continuing to do our work on this side and we encourage you to continue the same on your end every single day. Don Cook, how are you? So Don Cook said, well, you know where I'm joining from. That is right. I see Brenda Bradwitt joining from Florida this morning. Brent Mentor is in breakfast on Sherrod. I see Pamela. Pamela is with us this morning. Pamela, where are you joining us from? Beatrice, guys, if you don't know, Beatrice joins us from Queens, all the way from Queens every single day. And as we continue our discussion, I want to remind you to share the live stream. It's absolutely important. This is all that we ask you to do in the mornings on FYI is share the stream so that everyone else will be able to enjoy credible information. A whole lot going on, guys, and we will be bringing you every detail of it as the days progress. Every single day we are on here. Lizzie Simon, good morning to you, Lizzie. Judith, I know you usually make an awesome breakfast. What are you having this morning for breakfast? Judith, I think I'm going to be with you tomorrow morning having breakfast. I will have to make this a schedule to be with you tomorrow morning for breakfast. I see Jenny Linton is joining us this morning also. Tessa Isaac Graves Andy, blessings to you from Orlando, says Tessa. Hey Tessa, thank you so much. I received that very humbly. I see Wesley Ward is here with us this morning. Wesley and Beatrice having their own conversation there in the comment section, guys. Pauline is joining us from Barbados. Lots and lots happening in the region in Barbados. We always check in on the morning news to see what is going on in Barbados, what is going on in Jamaica, in Trinidad and Tobago. So folks, if you're joining from the island, let us know. Keith Dowling, live from Barbados. Good morning to you, Keith. You know, we have a lovely base of audience there in Barbados, and we are so thankful for each and every one of you that join us on a daily basis. Claire, good morning to you. Claire, it's nice to see you this morning once more. Clifton Smith, grace and mercy to you, my sister. Thank you so much, Clifton. I see Patricia Amsterdam also is with us this morning. Oh my goodness, such good people. Lisa Basdio, good morning to you. I see, is it Miss Jones, Pamela Johnson is here this morning. Guys, South Florida, is it Lenny? Lenny is joining us this morning from South Florida. Well, I'm here with my cup of tea. We don't have Sherrod on as yet to scrutinize the taste of this tea, but this morning I'm just going to be sipping on my tea and having a very in-depth conversation with you all as to what is transpiring in our country, what is going on in the region as it pertains to Guyana also, and always we go to the international front. But before we even get into the discussion, I just want to make note that that the Botanical Gardens was actually opened back, and that opening was on Monday. The Botanical Gardens at the zoo has officially opened back, so the public can go and utilize the space there. And I took it upon myself to visit both the zoo and the Botanical Gardens yesterday, and it was quite a serene environment. I love that space. I always encourage persons to go there. Make sure that you are exercising every bit of environmentally friendly habits when you are there. And I have to say, kudos to the police band that was there yesterday playing in the Botanical Gardens. Such beautiful songs, I have to say. You know, I was trying to get some research done actually, guys, on the Botanical actually the police band and how long it has been playing for. So you're gonna bear with me, but I believe what I made to understand, it was a military band force, and the band actually received a Medal of Service in 1966 after they have been playing since 1858. So quite a number of years, you know, from 1858 to 2022. So kudos to the band for all that they have done. I believe I will definitely be bringing you some more information on the band, but I want to say it was a most serene environment, and it was very peaceful. And I encourage persons to go and take your family, have a bit of quiet space from any particular day of the week. So thank you so much for that. A bit of music yesterday to the ear from the police band that was playing in the Botanical Gardens. A lot of work needs to be done on the zoo, I must add. So most definitely, I will be looking into to that and speaking a bit more on what is needed there to improve the habitat for those animals that live there. Guys, I see Roxanne Aaron is on with us this morning. Diane Graves, Zandy, Morris. Morris, good morning to you. Morris, where are you joining from? I see Larry Crawford also on with us this morning. Miss Griffith is watching from New Jersey. So hi to all the folks that are joining us from in the US, the folks that are joining us from Canada, the folks that are joining from the UK. I see Beatrice Selby said, Doretta, that was refreshing, girl. Yeah, it was definitely refreshing. I was there with my daughters. You know, it's always nice to be out and about with your children. There's nothing more. That's what we do, everything that we do for. Good morning, Stacy Mattis. Stacy, where are you joining us from? Guys, do not feel no way if you come on here and tell me where you're joining from every single morning, and then I still ask you the following day, because it is so important, because you need to remember every day we have new folks joining the program and they would not know. So Judith, David is asking what animals are in the zoo. Well, based on the visit that I had yesterday, there was no new animal added there, but one of the things that we must mention is that I think the zoo have a policy that they don't purchase animals, so that the animals that are there are actually animals that were rescued. And so those animals, there's a lot of times you see the write-up on the cages where the animals came from the pool. I think there are two in a particular cage that have the story of them being found after local person seeing them just about an area for 3 days without the mother anywhere in sight. So the animals there are actually rescued animals. So a lot of work, and I say kudos to the folks that actually work there at the zoo to upkeep those animals. But like I said, that based on my visit, yes, a lot of work needs to be put into bringing that up that particular standard, especially now that we have resources to inject into that area. Donna McDonald, good morning to you, Donna. I see Trafalgar Williams is here with us this morning. I don't know if I said that right at all, Viola Innes is here joining with us this morning. Also, good morning to you, Viola. Guys, as you come on, I'm telling you, Marl Joseph and all the other wonderful folks joining us this morning. As you come on, make sure that you click on the share. Let everyone else be able, let all the persons on your timeline or in groups that you're in have the equal opportunity to listen to credible information this morning. Wendy Ogle, good morning to you, Wendy. I see missionary Joey De Freitas is joining us from the USA. So good morning to you, Joey De Freitas, missionary. I'm wondering if that is actually with any gives any inclination that you are a missionary for a church or so forth. You can say in the comment section. I see Paulianne Schultz. Good morning, Paulianne. Wendy Ronald, you joining from New Jersey this morning. Good morning to you, Wendy. June Cameron. Hey, June. How are you this morning? Hope everything is going great at your end. Well, let me tell you, the weather is great. I'm up. It's a good morning. I am thankful. And let me just say that I have been going through the morning papers. And as we go through the morning papers, a lot of things is capturing my attention. And I see a little bit of advice basically on the blunt section. I want to say that in the Kaitor news has caught my eye for the day today, as you know, was declared a national day of prayer and fasting by the Air Finale administration. So I see here that the Kaitor News is putting out in their blunt section that says the day of prayer and fasting. President Air Finale has declared today, April 8th, 2022, a day of prayer and fasting. As we know, they said we here at Kaitor News believe in the power of prayer and fasting. We, however, hope that the day will be dedicated not just for President Ali's fanciful dream of one Guyana, they have it in uplifted commas, but for genuine, deep, soul-searching and repentance by our leaders for the wrongs they continue to commit on the poor and defenseless in this country. And they go on to say that we believe that prayer doesn't change God, but prayer changed the ones who petitioned the throne of God. It is against this background that we invite, this is the Kaitor News, the entire cabinet and the members of the opposition to go before God today with sincerity and not just pray, but weep for theirs and the nation's sins. The Kaitor News is basically saying that they believe in the power of prayer, but just don't come with this fanciful dream of one Guyana, they're saying to Air Finale right now, but they specifically are asking for the leaders to basically repent for the wrong they continue to commit on the poor and defenseless in the country. And this is it captured my attention because that particular line, the wrongs basically that are committed against the poor and defenseless in our country, because that is something I speak about on a daily basis. I say that one of the platform that I see myself most embracing is that which represent poor people, because I come from a very less fortunate background, and it is my aim to make sure that I give representation for poor people living in this country, because they are the ones that are left to the mercies of whomever, because those are people that do not usually have any platform for their voices to be heard. And if there's one thing I intend to do is to make sure that they have a voice through me in whatever means and methods that I can find to push their voice forward and amplify their cries and see what changes could be made at a level of policy for poor people in this country. So that definitely captured my attention, and I have to support the call there from the Kaitor News, the team at Kaitor News there. And as we go into the morning paper, some more guys, we see, but I see my colleague is all shaping up in the back there to comments. You can give him a bit of your keyboard whipping when he gets online, because he is late, and do not take it lightly. I say Pauline is here. Pauline saying amen to that, on point. Repent, most definitely. I see Beatrice is saying, congrats to you, Joel. A lot more work to be done, Beatrice. I'm new at this, first time parliamentarian. I must say, so I am extremely new at all of this, but I do my best to get up every single day and do the work that I have been so tasked to do by the wonderful people of this country. I see Vashti Magnot is here this morning with us. Siobhan said, I agree with that statement. Yes, I believe we all can agree with that statement. Mark is saying manners and respect everyone. He twisted a little bit there. Rowena, hey Rowena Dolphin, thank you for joining us this morning. I see Pauline Schultz also is here with us this morning. Pauline is saying Cheryl was praying and fasting. You guys have to ask him when he get on if he is doing that. I see Denise Mitchell. Good morning to you, Denise, and Jewel Ward. Good morning, guys. We continue to go into the morning papers. One of the things that we're seeing on the front page of one of our local newspapers is Mr. Norton is backing the calls for renegotiation of the oil contract, and he says Guyana is in a better position to seek readjustment. This is one of the things that we're looking at this morning. This question, these questions are posed to us on a daily basis by the media when it comes to our position on the renegotiation altogether. And what I can tell you guys, as my colleague graces us with his late presence, as I scooch over to welcome Mr. Duncan on
Haters gonna hate.
As he speaks about haters hating.
Haters gonna hate.
As he continues to speak about haters hating.
Morning, everybody. Respect and manners.
Do not go lightly with him this morning. He owes us all a very deep apology for his lateness.
Mm-hmm. Getting in here somewhere. Yeah.
Yes. So I was just
morning,
saying,
everybody. Morning. You were just saying.
I was just saying since you were not here on time. I was just saying that Mr. Norton is back in the calls to the renegotiation of the oil contract, as he's saying Guyana is in a better position to seek readjustment. Mm-hmm. And I was just about to say that the media usually put this question to us a lot, especially as new members of parliament that was not a part of the previous government, that what is our position and our take. And one of the things that I always say is that responsive governance and responsive government altogether needs to respond to the cries and the calls of the people. And if you see people consistently continuing to go out there and call for change, then it is only necessary. It is only necessary for us to be responsive, a responsive government, and actually heed the calls of the people, because they're the ones that we represent at the end of the day.
I agree with all that you said.
He agrees with all that I said.
I agree with all that you said. Each and everything that you have said, yes. I agree fully.
Totally agree. What part
totally
of it?
Fully. All of it. Guys, a very good morning. Winifred Sears and Stacey Mattis. Apologies for being late. I was indeed praying and fasting.
For what?
Huh? All the things you mentioned with Kaiser News. Corruption, Jagabatism,
repentance,
all of those things. Praying against them.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Wild Cane. I see Pamela.
Yeah, Pamela. Yeah.
That's you.
You can't beat a brother for praying. You know that? Good to be here. Good to see all of you guys who joined us. Joan Clark and Judith, Shirley Crichton.
June Cameron said, "You're damn late, but we there.
We out here, people. We out here. Good to see you guys.
Oh,
what did I miss, Rita? What did I miss?
Everything, sir.
Everything. You hear that? I missed everything. Wow. Missed everything.
But we are going through the morning papers, and the first thing that we looked at, as you just mentioned, was what Kaiser News is admonishing persons to do today on the declared day of prayer and fasting, and then we moved on to Mr. Norton actually back in the calls. He didn't miss that much.
Oh, he didn't miss that much.
You missed the most important sets of people when we were shouting out our morning viewers.
Oh, I see. Important folks like Donna McCrae. Important folks like Sasha Trim and Alicia Thomas and Yolanda. I see Jordan is here too, and Denise, Alicia Thomas, Bella Mona, all of the nice folks. Good to see you guys.
Well, as we continue in the morning papers, one of the things that we're going to be looking at a little bit later is the comedian Henry Rodney actually is died, I believe, at the age of 68, if I'm not mistaken. But
Yeah.
that is one bit of a lot of sad news in Guyanese. A lot of work done there, but we're going to be discussing that a little bit more as we go along. So we see also that low catches forcing fishermen into illegal zones, and government urged to speed up study on impact. And I want to just give some more context to this, because yesterday,
Contextualize for us.
on our morning program yesterday, we were speaking about the fact that the Ministry of Agriculture went in there to the fishermen that were complaining that they were claiming that because of the oil production and the vessels being out there, that it has reduced the amount of fish that they actually catch, and because of that, it was tremendously impacting their standard of living, their ability to earn and feed their families. And the Minister of Agriculture, Zulfikar Mustafa, actually went in there to give them hampers. And I said yesterday that does not solve any issue whatsoever, because they are still not able to catch fish, to make a living for their families.
Maybe the fish is just not mating as they used to. Maybe they're just like a one-child policy. one child per family policy.
No, but it's deeper than that, and I don't want to get into this specific discussion, but I'm going to throw something out right now. When it comes to the fact is, if we would remember, there was a whole lot of discussion at the level of the National Assembly when it comes to the trawler license that were given out, and so on and so forth. So when the small scale fishermen can compete if trawlers are in the same areas with them also, right? So that's a different discussion, but we're going to get into that a little bit later down in the month, because I have some more details coming on that. But this particular matter is very serious, because if they're saying low catches is forcing fishermen into illegal zones, it's as serious as it could get. We remember all of the issues with pirates and all of that.
Correct is right.
That was almost eliminated, but I think it was eliminated under the coalition administration in office. I think Ketanji Brown Jackson did a lot of work in that area. So this is very concerning, because again, I must say, our duty is to make sure that the people of our country are safeguarded in every respect. So they definitely need to solve and whatever study that they're doing right now, speed it up.
They don't like studies. Let me admit it.
Are they actually doing a study? I shudder to think that you have fishermen waiting on a study that haven't started.
Yeah, they don't like studies. They don't like studies. But that's what's happening there too. And it's interesting to see what's going to happen. But I hope they do the study, because it might tell us long term what systems we're going to have to put in place to cushion what's happening there with the fisher folk, because that's important.
Yes.
That's important.
Most definitely.
What else we got?
I see another issue I see here is a man gets 14 years for chopping pregnant wife. 14 years for chopping your pregnant wife. Yeah, I don't know if that's enough, but that's subjective. So.
And the other day, a man got 7 years for killing his wife.
So
interesting.
Oh my goodness.
Interesting.
But he was left with 7 years to actually serve. Let's just be correct on that.
Oh, you were following that too?
Yes, most definitely. So a whole lot more to speak about, and I see at the level of the UN Secretary General, we see more fossil fuel projects represent moral and economic madness, and the world must triple speed of shift to renewable energy, and this is coming from the UN Secretary General,
which is part of the challenge we had recently when that showbase project was shelved by the U.S. representative and the INB not voting.
That was the reasoning given behind it, because of their policy focus and direction that they're going with renewable energy altogether. Correct.
And for instance, we know now that where you got issues like the Amilo Falls project, technology and time and technology has overtaken those large kind of projects. In that sense, you got lots of other means of energy and power that can be had without that kind of huge investment there. So we got to look at those things. Those things have the kickback.
You remember
those things got kicked out though.
You remember The current administration only goes into projects that has kickbacks.
Kickbacks.
Yeah.
Interesting.
That's how they determine which project to do, which have the most kickbacks.
Subacks.
So a lot there.
Also.
However, what is going on in your papers this morning is Sherrod. I think I have Sherrod's paper this morning before me. So
Yeah. You know, well, we start on the trend because some of the stuff we cover on the trend show, like for instance, Henry Rodney, passing, such a fantastic fellow.
Yes.
I had the privilege, and I'll tell you guys a story how life comes full circle. When we get into talking about Henry Rodney and the other stuff. But
Don't lose it all.
Maybe head to the trend. Just maybe.
Yes. As we head to the trend, you know, on the international front, we want to start there. Huge congratulations to Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson. Huge congratulations here from our FYI family. I know that all of you out there in the comment section will be sharing this this joy that we all have right now. But we see Ketanji Brown Jackson becomes the first Black woman on the U.S. top court, U.S. Senate.
Fantastic.
Jackson to the Supreme Court in what Democratic Party leaders call a joyous day for the country. A joyous day for the country. And I want to, as I went through all the congratulations that was going out on social media and all newspapers throughout the world. As I went through congratulations, I saw one was caught my attention. It's Oprah Winfrey actually wrote.
Talk to us about that.
On her Facebook page.
Very interesting.
Oprah Winfrey actually wrote that although all through the confirmation hearings, especially when I saw young Leela Jackson looking at her mom with such pride, I found myself thinking about parents, particularly parents of Black children, particularly parents of Black girls, how for them, Ketanji Brown Jackson is reason to celebrate. A thrilling new example. New living proof of what is possible. A new chance to turn to their child and say, you are possible. And I think the words there that's written by Oprah Winfrey there on her social media page is something that we can all agree to, because we are all so very proud of this momentous occasion as we see it being unfolded there in the United States. But I want to mention something else that's very important. The fact that 3 Republican senators actually are making their mark. The historical moment. They have marked the historical moment of Ketanji Brown Jackson's being voted on to the Supreme Court there. You know, Sherrod is here. Are you okay there?
Yeah, I'm good.
Good. So I want to say that the 3 Republicans that actually voted for her to be there is Susan Collins. I see Lisa, Murkowski, and also Mitt Romney. Well, we're not so surprised with Mitt Romney because he has been doing some things.
Mitt Romney has become the John McCain in U.S. politics, the kind of maverick. He's not going to throw the party line. He's going to do what he's going to go with what he believes is right. And he always tries to be on the right side of it. I didn't like Mr. Romney when he first burst onto the scene running for president a couple of years ago. But I think he has earned our respect over time.
But he has. So you know, looking at that and the fact that you had 3 members of the Republican actually seeing merit in Ketanji Brown Jackson for her to sit in that seat, is quite a momentous occasion and actions to go along with it. So them themselves has made their own mark on
very much so.
Yes, in this little history this huge history rather that was created there. So we say congratulations to them.
Big congratulations.
All right thinking persons that saw that this woman was overqualified, if I dare say, for this position altogether. So I am so very proud of the moment, and I celebrate with all those who are celebrating also. Yeah,
but you know, an interesting point to note here, in our context, is how the process through which Jackson had to go.
Transparency.
Transparency, accountability, the grilling, and this came up recently in discussion. It's Law Week, and lots of things happening for Law Week locally. This is the Ghana Bar Association Law Week, and part of the discussion has been that the formula for appointing the substantive chancellor and chief justice has not worked in the past. And so people are looking for another way in which you can get them confirmed, the chancellor and chief justice appointed as substantive chancellor and chief justice. But just look at the American system.
Yeah.
Right. You have to reach across the aisle to get support. And look at the grilling. Yeah. I mean, the chancellor and chief justice don't come to the National Assembly to be grilled.
Maybe that's the element that's missing.
Maybe that's a new formula. Maybe that's a new formula.
It's interesting that you said that, because that's what I was thinking, that when we talk about changing, we cannot talk about change to going back. We cannot talk about any bit of change that is going to come over as dictatorial.
Yeah.
We have to talk about change that is going to be strengthening democracy and democratic processes altogether. So what is stopping the change from going forward to say that let's make this into as public as can possibly be? Let the questions and the scrutiny that comes from both the government and opposition.
Let's put the chancellor and chief justice before the National Assembly.
What stops that? Nothing stops that, right? If change is needed, probably that is a change that is needed for the public to view and witness how these persons and on what
hold
merit.
Up the scrutiny. And hold up the scrutiny.
Exactly.
Right.
So when we talk about,
but I think
when we talk about any bit of change and wanting to change, the only thing that we should be talking about is tightening it up and making sure that the strength in the democratic process and the transparency altogether is even more strengthened as against weakening trying to eliminate that aspect.
What the current administration really wants is to single-handedly choose who they want for chancellor and chief justice.
Definitely not.
That's what they want, right?
We know that's what they want.
And acting simply means that's an IMC, interim management committee, because you know how much they love that. You know how much they love that. I'm going to tell you that Judicial is right in your hometown. But look at the scrutiny of the American system.
My hometown just doesn't roll over and play dead like that, because they are very rebellious, and they are being very rebellious right now. I can say that. I can say as much.
Aside. Again, a very robust system in the US in choosing somebody for its highest court, the Supreme Court, which really and truly amounts to our High Court, our Supreme Court of judicature.
Guys, you can give your feedback on that altogether. Would you not like to see that? Would you not like to see a process of confirmation that actually is as transparent as possible, to the point that the public gets to witness what is the level of scrutiny and the questions being asked of these people?
Robust system. A very robust system. Interesting on that front. But a lot of things happening regionally too, Trika, as we move along. A lot of stuff happening regionally. And one of the things we're seeing is that this new COVID variant, let me make sure I get the name right, BA2, right? I could see exactly what an acronym could mean. BA2, bad something too. This is a variant of COVID-19. And in terms of regional news, they're telling us that it's in the U.S. Virgin Islands have reported its first case. I think might be the first Caribbean territory too to report this new variant of COVID-19.
Well, what we have learned over time is once it is reported, it's all over.
It's done.
Once it's reported.
Well, the folks here can suspect. We suspect
that it may
Frank, you know Frank operates. We suspect. We have it here. We suspect. We want to think. We want to believe maybe. We have it here, maybe not. So we can look at it, right? But the British Virgin Islands reporting that they have a case of this new COVID variant, guys, the BA2. And in addition to that, we come in, let me come a little closer to BVI. We got, in that general region there, the Bahamas says that they have a plan to tackle the rising murder rate. They said as a nation, they're not tolerating this foolishness. They have a crime prevention plan. It's something that was promised here.
When we had high risk Saturdays.
Yes, we still have that. A lot of crime underreported. A lot of crimes on the books. But in contrast,
but that is true. The underreporting of crimes here in our country is severe. You know, so many times you see persons on the road and you see them and they distress them in two particular situations. Someone said, "Oh, someone just snatched your phone. Someone just snatched your purse." And did you report it? You're all being able with, you know, the police, they don't do nothing. So based on those experiences, I can say that you shudder to think how many more are not reported, how many more instances and cases, crime is not being reported.
And so that's happening there. But the Bahamas seem to have that one up on us. They actually have a plan that they're looking at to tackle the murder rate. They're alarmed by the murder rate in the Bahamas, and they're going to do something about that. We say, you know, pay some power. Kudos to you. Gotta do something. We gotta do something.
What else are we looking at in the region? Today?
In the region, as you come closer to home, in Suriname, they're implementing a temporary fuel subsidy, which is a good move. And the important thing with Suriname, Twitter, for folks who are going to read this story later on, Suriname is saying that because they have received a higher price of oil in the world market.
What, the thing we were talking about, right? The net benefit?
The net benefit, the proceeds from that, they're giving as a fuel subsidy for their citizens because they care. They
you
care.
mean what we've been talking about?
Yes.
The same thing?
Yes, because oil prices have gone up in the world market.
So you're getting more money
as
a country.
More money as a country. So they're giving that back to their citizens.
They're giving back a fraction of it.
Right?
Subsidy.
In subsidy.
I can remember somebody at this table speaking about these things. You know, I remember.
She who shall not be named.
You know, speaking about these things. You know?
Or is he who shall not be named?
Trying to get it.
She who shall not be named.
Guys, you know, sometimes, you know, I often complain about something. I often complain about the fact that a lot of times things that is said goes on unnoticed. When you were young, you knew. You know, a lot of times you say something and it goes unnoticed. And then somebody else, because they're older, more familiar, comes and say the exact same thing.
Or because it's said in the papers. It has more.
You see? Oh my goodness.
Suriname. Brilliant.
You know?
Brilliant.
This is what we've been saying. I've made this argument time and time again.
So there's that. So there's that happening.
Yes.
So I think that's a trifecta. It's Suriname, what's happening in the U.S. Virgin Islands, and then what's happening in the Bahamas. That I think it's important to us here.
Most definitely, it is important to us here because we have similar issues in our country. I know one of the things that I want to mention right now is the Alliance of Change actually called for flour to be subsidized after the announcement of that 15% increase there because of the fact, and that was stated also that there is you are getting a net benefit because we are now a producing nation. So because of that, there is an increase in the price of oil on the world market. You have a net benefit, and it's going to take a fraction. I think it was 1%, just thereabout, that can be utilized to subsidize this 15% increase in the price of flour. These are things that we have been discussing time and time again. But who listens? You know.
Only us.
We have some so-called experts at the top that does some different.
But closer to home, folks. Closer to home, you know. I think we've paused today to reflect on the life of Henry Rodney, who has left us, and you know, pretty instrumental. We go into the National Day of Prayer, and Mr. Henry would have succumbed yesterday in a hospital in New York, and you know, our thoughts and prayers go to his entire family.
Yeah.
Our thoughts and prayers go to Mr. Rodney's entire family. What a life he has lived and has entertained us. As long as I've known myself, like
comedian,
I've known
actor. He has made quite an extraordinary mark in Guyana. He has left a legacy that will forever be remembered, and he will be definitely missed by so many persons in the arts. Have been given their sympathies out on social media there and telling their bit of story about who he is and who he was and how their interaction with him was so inspiring to them from time to time. I believe that you had a little story sometime.
And here is very serious respect. No, interestingly, I've always heard this. I can't remember who, where and when. When I was very young, I think it may have been people who you know, folks come to your school, and they tell you about career guidance and so on. And I learned very early, if you have nothing to do with it, by the time you get in trouble, find something productive to do with your time. And just out of high school, I think I was then, nothing to do, didn't have a job then. And I remember somebody saying, you know, see if you can volunteer somewhere with your time. It's a good opportunity to network with people. And who knows what the future might hold. And so I used to volunteer a lot. So home doing nothing. And Channel 2 was close to where I lived. And Henry Rodney, Lyndon Jumbie Jones, I think Kestadine and Chow Pao or somebody else had a morning show. It used to be called Morning Gaffer, something like that, on Channel 2. And I was living close by. I had, I think, just started doing communications. I always had a passion for the subject matter. I went and I volunteered to help them in any way with their morning show. And that's how I drew close to Mr. Rodney and those guys, going there and just volunteering my time for free, helping in any way I could to, you know, make the morning show a success. I think it was Gaff or something like that. It was called something Gaff. I know Gaff was in the name of the program. And that is how I met Mr. Rodney and worked with him in that setting for a little while. I can't remember how long it was, but it was a year and a half or so on. But that is where I engaged with, and always one kind of person, always encouraging, always got a story to tell you. Fascinating fella. And then again, grew up watching him on the big stage at Culture Center, various productions there. And so I was like, I had a fan moment every morning, seeing these guys on the morning show there. And, you know, just look how life has come full circle.
Yeah.
Look how life has come full circle.
You know, shared his talk in there, right? And all I can think about is the fact that those guys had to work with the resources that were available to them to try to get their talent and their interests out there all together. And it is amazing to see that they would have been on a specific TV channel that has a restriction to its reach altogether. And now, as compared to the availability, the use of technology, and the fact that there's a whole new world, the entire world is open up to you if that was something that was aired on any
because
internet
Facebook,
platform.
I don't even know if they had Facebook yet.
Exactly, right?
I don't even know. You were just shooting out into the thin air. Now you can gauge your reach, you can gauge, you know, but it's more interactive.
But with that in mind, like, I'm thinking like how harder they had to work to be recognized and to make their mark in society, as opposed to how easier it would have been if they had done it in this time. So kudos to them for that, for the way in which they had to work harder back then to make that mark.
I know that little principle in life has really meant the world to me. That volunteering, you know, putting yourself out there, because I still have a great relationship with all those guys, Kestadine and Chow Pao and Lyndon Jumbie Jones, who has gone on to do some brilliant things on stage himself with a production. You know, so it has really been meaningful to me, and it brought me into contact with some great persons like Henry Rodney, who again, I don't think we'd ever see the likes of him gracing the stage. I think it's once in a lifetime. Those kinds of people who really and truly were trailblazers.
Correct.
He was an actor, a teacher, a motivator, a mentor. All of those things, you know, all of those things. A father. He was a father. He was a husband.
Most important.
And for all intents and purposes, he looked like he did that well. He looked like he was a great father. And based on what I see, some of the responses from his children online and all that, and I think that is the most important thing. And if you lose that, I think you are nowhere. And that's something I always carry with me too. You know, it's good if people talk, you know, nice things about you. But what will your children say about you?
Very important,
right?
You know, and that's important. That in mind, you know, that's why sometimes you're super tired and you get home, but your children want to spend some time and they want you to have a meaningful conversation and communicate with them, and that's the important thing to have, you know. So yesterday, actually, when I was out at the Botanical Gardens with I look at my little daughter. both of them just running and playing like children. When they went home, they were so happy and most elated that they got the opportunity to go. She's like, I had tons of fun. So most definitely, family is most important. So for all that Mr. Henry Rodney had done and in this country, I know the most important mark and legacy that he left behind is that with his family.
Correct. And our thoughts and prayers are with the Rodneys this morning, their extended family, and our thoughts and prayers are with the nation. I believe strongly, I don't think I've seen it yet. I don't know if it's out there, but we should have had a response from the administration by now. And I think Henry Rodney is that iconic figure. I would dare even say to fly the nation's flag at half-mast.
Yeah.
I think in the cultural life of this nation, Henry Rodney will go down as one of those greats that we have had in the cultural life as a personality on the stage. Not only has he been a performer, he has been a teacher in that context. He has mentored others in that context. And I think that was one of the most beautiful things I have seen, to see Henry Rodney on the stage, putting other people first, allowing other stars to shine, right? He was in the latter part of his life. I saw that and I admire that. He was that sea that allowed all boats. He was that rising tide that allowed all boats to float. And I think that is a brilliant thing. I think we don't see much of it.
That's the difference between being a leader as against being a boss.
Yeah, and in his field, in his orbit of influence, Henry Rodney was a leader.
Yes.
He was a leader on stage and a fantastic, I would say, human being. I think all of us have our flaws, and you can pinpoint any of that in any given day. But I think largely he had a very, very successful career. And is not something you see often locally. You have lots of shooting stars, right? But he was that guiding light. And he took that craft, that art and craft of making people laugh, right? Putting a smile on your face, even in the Caribbean and internationally. And, I just want to say to his family, thank you for giving him to us.
Yeah.
Giving him to us and being a support system that we could have benefited from his talent and his gifts. Yeah.
Most definitely. So again, we say our sincere condolences to the family of Henry Rodney, and we definitely would say that he left his mark and his legacy will forever live on in this country.
Yep. So that's part of what's happening on the local front, and then we got a big issue this morning.
Oh my goodness!
The big issue.
Well, the big issue this morning, as it is more so a question. Our big issue is on all that has been circulating in the media as it pertains to CARICOM and whether or not we are seeing a split coming.
But there is that. But Rita, I beg your pardon. Just before we head into that, we missed one thing I think we ought to know about. That KANU and some agencies in particular, the Ministry of Education, they're going to be working together to stem the tide of illegal drugs in schools.
Yeah.
I think that's an important initiative.
Yeah. Well, I saw what I can say about it is that the KANU head is calling on both citizens and the Ministry of Education that they're going to be collaborating with, but they're calling specifically on citizens to give information about drug posters in the schools and in the community. And I think that is an important call indeed, because we've had so many situations. I know so many stories of the police being called in because of drugs within the schools, and children just don't get drugs from nowhere. Adults are giving children drugs to sell in the schools, and that is no light matter, because all hell will go down if someone approaches my child to give them drugs in school. I'm sorry, that would be crazy.
Yeah.
But we definitely need to be vigilant as parents, and we need to speak out as a community. There is no community that drugs is being sold in that the people living in the community don't know who's selling drugs.
Yeah.
Let's be honest about that.
Yep.
There is nowhere that drugs is being sold that people don't know who is selling drugs.
But it's happy. I'm happy to see, and we're happy to see that the ministry, well, the agencies, along with KANU, they're picking up the pace. Before this becomes a pandemic, because we've noticed this in other places. Last evening on our affiliate program in the ring, we were showing what happened recently in a particular school in Jamaica, Petersfield High School. Big fight, and teachers trying to fire these kids, and them kids and taking a hint, they taking a hint. That was the essence of Pashwe. Right, bloodied and bruised, and them children fighting,
But it begs the questions of what these children are being taught.
So I'm happy to see this kind of
not
intervention.
in school, at home.
I'm happy to see this kind of intervention. Well, there is formal instruction, and then there's informal.
Correct.
Don't let's run away from the fact you got lots of parents, lots of families. Like the one I grew up in was a single parent family.
Yeah.
Parents had to go off to your parents had to go off to work.
Yeah.
And you had just had a television in lots of instances. Right? Or you had, in my case, you had a book. You had lots of books.
Yeah.
Right? My mother is serious, where we lived, you had, everything was 120 volts, I think. The appliances. But where we lived was 240, the wiring for the place. So you had to have a transformer. Right? To convert that 120 to 110 or 120, whatever the case, the 240 to 110. My mother would go to the transformer. You're going to read that book? Don't think when you're watching TV show for hours,
She gone with transformer.
Gone with the transformer. But later on in life, you saw the value of that. Right? I need to pick up the pace of my reading right now. Right? But that being said, again, the biggest thing for us at high school was holding a girl hand. I had girlfriends in high school. I look back and I never even.
No one ever held my hand. No one ever held my hand.
Yes, hold on. John Doe. Rock and come in, John Doe. Roll and come in, flick.
In high school, I swear, high school, no, I never held anybody's hand. And listen,
that was
I
the biggest thing.
Super innocent in school. I was the definition of innocent.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody used
Apparently,
to want to talk to me.
Apparently, I was too, because looking back, I realized I had a couple girlfriends. And I never touched this girl hand,
But I want to say this also, that even though, you're in school and you're not you're not involved, I feel the same. I swear I feel the same. Because I remember there were these particular groups of girls in school in my class, and they were like more usually the regular girls, the popular girls, and all decked out,
Where are they now?
More, I don't want to answer those questions.
We didn't ask you something. Where are that? We out here.
And some of them extremely mean and all of that. But I remember I bring it up because we're discussing the whole issue with drugs and Kanu talking about drugs in the school. And I remember particularly, persons used to sneak alcohol into schools but nobody comes around me with it. I was alienated from all of that. People used to try. Probably think that the teachers like me more, because since in school I was debating and trying to do my best and my head down in my books, so I wasn't included. But that alcohol is being sneaked into the schools and things like that.
But I think the important point here is that even though the gravity of the infraction might change, there are infractions nonetheless. I mean, in our time was little alcohol and so on. Now is what kind of drugs?
Ecstasy and all sorts of
what's the class
Molly,
what's the class of drugs? LCSD, something like that.
I don't know the names.
Opium, all kinds of stuff, right? There's a whole classification. What's the fancy ones now, man? We dealt with it recently in the National Assembly. LSDs or something of that.
I can't remember,
the class. But I mean, that was a big thing. But it's important, it's very important that we have these conversations with our children. And we don't assume, because we try to be upright parents, that by default, they're following in line. But to have the hard conversations, I'm eking out some time right now to talk to my son about a couple of things, because I realize, he's getting to that age. And he needs me more than ever. He's transitioning into those teenage years, those confusing years, and he needs me now more than ever, right? I mean, here's a topic for us. The first time I was introduced to masturbation was with my male friends in class, third former in high school.
Wow.
And all these guys during the break period, they huddled at the back of the classroom, and believe it or not, they got some rulers measuring. I remember this thing was alien to me, like in third for me, know myself yet.
Because you're innocent.
Alien to me, and to see these boys, and I think, why is all this measuring? And they got literal rulers, But looking back on that part of my life, I wondered now, as an older person, not much older, but older, what kinds of homes they had. If that's what they were doing in third form, who introduced that to them? right? Because there was like, that was alien to me then. What were they home? It's like,
But,
what were they doing?
you have to have conversations with your children so that they will know to define instantly what is wrong and what is right. And I can say this because I can say this to you, that our listening audience this morning, that when it comes to my 7-year-old, for example, usually there are programs on television, like on Netflix and so forth, that is, you see, rated 7+, right? And she would say, oh, this is 7+, and I'm like, you can't look at that, because I'm sorry, but my standard as it comes to what a 7-year-old should be consuming in their mind is not what 7+ rated programming is carrying it today. So like, you have to be very vigilant with your children.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
because I don't want, I say I have a policy to keep your children as innocent as you can, as for as long as you possibly can. Yes, you have conversation with them so that they know that these are acceptable norms and so forth. But you keep your children innocent as long as you possibly can. I want my children to be running around, playing,
Doing things a
thoughts
7-year-old
should
be doing.
exactly.
Right? If they're on a device, could be reading some good
Yes.
book,
Playing a
watching
little game.
some age appropriate
Yeah.
material, that kind of thing. Being active,
Yeah.
being active. But that being said, this looked like a good initiative,
Yeah.
and definitely
We
timely.
support it, and we encourage you out there to support it. If you know of anyone that is sneaking drugs into the school, Kanye
Yep.
is saying that, report it. Let them know. If you know of persons that are selling drugs in your neighborhood, report it. Let them know. Kanye is saying that they are on a robust program right about
Yep.
now to tackle these things, and they cannot do it without your help and your intervention. So we support this call, and we say to go out there and assist by doing your part. Speak out. That is all we ask.
Correct. And as you preempted early on, the big issue for today, the big issue is whether it's a split in CARICOM. We've seen a lot of stuff, that suggests, oh my God, a split in CARICOM, a lot of stuff. And disengagement is one of them, causing a lot of trouble. This is the president of the CCJ, Justice Adrian Saunders, met recently with Irfan just yesterday afternoon, as a matter of fact. And you should know that the CCJ is a creature of CARICOM in its original jurisdiction. For people with familiarity with the legal parlance, the original jurisdiction of the CCJ, the Caribbean Court of Justice, is to interpret the revised Treaty of Chaguaramas. That is one of its core functions. It's the only body that has that jurisdiction, right? To interpret what this treaty means. And so if you got member states that got conflict with the treaty, with enforcing the treaty, realizing the treaty, then the CCJ in its original jurisdiction looks at that. Who might be right, who might be wrong, what is the infraction, what are the consequences that flows from that, and all of that. That's in its original jurisdiction. So it's a creature of CARICOM. It doesn't just happen, it's a creature of CARICOM, right? And we've seen lots of other things too that are happening that suggest, you might got some rifts, and it's something we've been talking about for months now. For instance, since you had that whole issue with Liat and Antigua versus Mia Motley, and who was then at that time, I think, chairman of CARICOM, or was it Ralph Gonzalez? They were trying to liquidate Liat and Antigua and Barbuda, where Liat is based predominantly, was saying no, they think they can turn around the airline. But one of the things I think that Ralph Gonzalez was trying to do was bring another airline that his son has an interest in. I think it's One Caribbean or something like that, into play. So you had lots of dynamics that were playing out there. And they didn't treat Galveston Brown too nicely, Dick. He called them a liar. They called him names. And this was CARICOM leaders. And I keep saying we have lost those towering figures in the regions, right? We got some who look like they are emerging voices, strong voices, like Mia Motley, for instance. But we used to have many more of these towering leaders in CARICOM. And this photograph here is, a lot of people are raising issues with that. So maybe we can start where that is concerned, that you have some critical cases, sensitive cases in the case of the legitimacy of this very government, where the elections petition cases are concerned. One is currently before the CCJ right now.
Yeah. And that
On appeal.
I
And
think
to
that
see
is the concern.
this kind of fraternizing.
Yes. Yes. With a respondent, I believe. So
Yeah.
I believe that the concern that is being raised in the public right now is rightfully so, because when you have a current case before that body, and then action speaks volume, especially with all that is and was being said. I know that I think it was the Jamaica Gleaner, if I'm not mistaken, that had
some pretty interesting
an editorial. Pretty interested indeed. I had an editorial there, and if I'm not mistaken, if I'm referring to my notes right now, I think it was the headline that read CCJ a fatal part, and they were in uplifted comments they're quoting young bud nano storm, and that was taken. Well, actually, it was from the Jamaica Observer.
Yeah.
The Jamaica Observer went into a very detailed editorial about that.
But I think a little context to that would be that in Jamaica, there's this sense that they want to pull away from having the crown as the head of state, the figurative head of state,
to
right?
move away,
yeah,
exactly.
And to become an fully independent country.
And that was communicated when they had the Duchess and Prince over there.
Correct. And part of that, they're saying if they remove themselves from under the crown, then they would remove themselves also from the Privy Council, which is their apex court. And so they would then subscribe to the CCJ. And the background to it is that one of the political organizations, the youth organization, had come out in support of this idea of moving away from the Privy Council and to subscribe to the CCJ. So the Jamaica Observer was saying, hold on. Look some context. That's what they're saying pretty much. Hold on. Right? Look some context. And this is part of what they said. And I want us to take a look at it, maybe from just before we even got to this very important quote here, because part of what they said, Jarita and viewers and listeners, they said, the big question that people need to ask is why in 22 years of our CARICOM members, why in 22 years, only 4 CARICOM members, namely Barbados, Belize, Dominica, and Guyana, have signed on to the CCJ's appellate jurisdiction. Right? This is the second aspect of the court. Note also that although the CCJ headquarters is in Port-of-Spain and Trinidad is a republic, that sister CARICOM nation has not opted to join. We're not surprised the least. To a greater or lesser extent, this is where the quote now kicks in, to a greater or lesser extent, the people of the Caribbean have no confidence that they will get justice when they need it. Witnesses are intimidated witnesses are intimidated at will. Court files routinely disappear. Evidence is frequently contaminated or compromised. Cases are sabotaged by corrupt officers, and there is a never-ending backlog of cases, causing people to take justice into their own hands. The editorial goes on. Most treacherous of all of these, those politicians who intervene to influence outcomes. This is an editorial out of the Jamaica Observer. Politicians who intervene to influence outcomes on their own behalf or that of connected parties. There's no us here. FYI, this is the editorial out of the Jamaica Observer, March 27.
Yep.
Just March 27, right? Intervene on their own behalf or that of connected parties. This is the great fear where a Caribbean Court of Appeal is concerned, because those connections run deep from country to country. And then it goes on to state, right, about the view of the Privy Council. The view is that the law lords of the UK Privy Council are far removed from our everyday life and can afford to be dispassionate and as objective as humanly possible in rendering judgment. To lose that, the editorial says, would be a fatal error. Yep. So again, understand our the big question in that context now. When we see images like these, when you have very, very big cases, sensitive cases before the CCJ, and then you see images like this.
Yeah.
Right? A courtesy call by the president of the CCJ.
Ill-timed.
Yeah.
Severely.
Yeah. And then we want to put some other things with this, because, Charita, we are seeing also currently there are some headlines in the region that really and truly are standing out.
Yeah, I think one of those was actually what went on between Datadin and Greenwich, and that little bit of back and forth that was basically in Guyana playing with danger if it opts out of CARICOM treaty obligations.
Precisely, because and then again, that comes to what they say is the original jurisdiction of the court, because you need this level playing field of access to resources. That's why you got the single market and economy, free movement of people and all of that. So everybody must have access to your country to do business and all of that. Here is Guyana saying
passport and everything.
Exactly. So here's Guyana saying we want, we want to dictate who comes and who goes where it concerns our oil and gas. And there's a school of thought out there that says this local content policy might run counter to our treaty obligations, the Treaty of Chaguaramas. And remember, it is the CCJ that has sole authority of interpreting the treaty. Who has made an infraction on that treaty and all of that. So you have all of that playing out at that level. And then Datadin suggesting that we should pull out of CARICOM if they want to strong arm us with our oil and gas sector.
Well, I want to say that Datadin does not go out there and make these pronouncements on its own because he feels the need to personally go make such pronouncement. He does that as part of a set piece.
Yeah, that sounds as though they're testing the waters.
Exactly.
They're testing the waters on that. But so take that into context, folks, with also some other stuff that's happening in the region. So, for instance, we saw that there was a critical vote in the UN just yesterday, I think it was, within the last 72 hours, on whether Russia should remain in the Human Rights Council of the UN, and Guyana abstained to vote. But in addition to that, you had some other CARICOM countries, and for instance, a headline in Starbuck News just this morning is that that CARICOM is evenly split on this vote. When they look at it, CARICOM is evenly split on this vote. And so put that on the table as well, and you add another dimension to what's happening in CARICOM. You have the position of the Commonwealth Secretary General opening up for election in June. And it seems to have been a practice or a norm in the past that there's a unified position by CARICOM.
Correct.
It seems as though some member countries want to go with Patricia Scotland, the Baroness. And it seems that is why Patricia Scotland was here. She was shoring up. She was campaigning, basically. She didn't come here because she liked us. She was campaigning, right? So she come perhaps to ask, what y'all doing? Do I have your support, Irfan? Right? You see, because if you have my support now down the line, I might issue a statement.
Or two.
Or two on your behalf. How things need to go. So do I have your support? So she comes here, under the pretext, I just want to see what's happening, and you issue a couple of statements, but it's really and truly campaigning. It begs, why this courtesy call by Justice Sanders on Irfan Ali? You come for law, we can go about your business. Right? Sudden courtesy call being paid. So they're split. Now, because Jamaica says, we want our foreign affairs minister. She has done well. She has performed extremely well. She is internationally recognized and so forth. We want our foreign minister to be Secretary General. We nominate her. And then you got some other people now saying, well, we probably got a little commitment to Scotland.
My goodness.
And Scotland got a whole set of controversies, around her right now. Mismanagement of resources, among other things. So CARICOM, another headline says that CARICOM is divided on a Commonwealth Secretary General position. The other headline that I mentioned earlier on, CARICOM is divided in vote for Russia, right? And then we see now there's different schools of thought on the use of an institution like the CCJ and all of the influences they could be susceptible to.
Well, Guyana seems to be speaking volume by not speaking at all.
Yeah.
And that's the fact that they abstained from that vote.
Well, Chad was on the
know?
the East Coast talking about economic policies.
Yeah. I don't think
not the East Coast of the Caribbean, not in the Caribbean. East Coast. East Coast of Guyana, Region 5. You had an outreach there. Made several stops.
I don't think he has done anything that anybody could say at this point in time, that makes sense. So I don't think that is something that we look forward to seeing in the very near future.
Yeah.
Nevertheless, but definitely a whole lot to consider. Like we're saying,
a lot of things on the plate where CARICOM is concerned.
The discussion is not just here at home in Guyana, but it is the region altogether is having very intense articles, editorials. The discussion is very intense altogether as to what is the direction of CARICOM at this moment. So this is definitely a story that will develop and add more content and context over time.
Yep. And I think we gotta bring to bear some more pressure on the administration. These images don't look good. How do they expect people to feel? The independence of the court. You want to say, they're such people of stature that they're not susceptible to bias.
Did he meet with the opposition?
And all of that. Interesting point.
I'm just asking.
As you're paying courtesy calls.
My point exactly.
Right? As the president of the CCJ, you only pay courtesy call on heads of state. Is that the protocol? Interesting times ahead. Interesting times ahead. Well, you see, the old people say, when you see something set up, when you see with broad daylight, you don't take candlestick for go look for nighttime.
My goodness.
Interesting times. But good to see so many folks with us this evening.
The comments are very
this
interesting.
morning.
Some of them I can't read.
Pamela Jove, I see you there. Dave Jurel, we see you too. We see you too. The images is the imagery for us, folks. It's the imagery for us.
So,
Kylo Tech, we see you there.
Miss my alarm. We'll have to catch it below the belt.
Yep. Eastern Duke, we see you there. All our favorite folks are on this morning. Folks, ensure you share, and smash that emoji button as well, guys. Please and thank you.
Dave came a little late.
Thank you.
He apologized for coming in late, but then Dave is on the go there in the comment section. He came in late, but he's up and about with the discussion.
Yep. I see an interesting comment here. I think I want us to capture Twitter. That long comment right there. It says, and if you can go through it, your eyes might be better than mine.
Well, I'm not seeing it at all. I can't go through it. I've not seen it on my.
It says here that apparently my eyes gonna be the better one this morning. It says here that Justice Saunders, who met with President Ali, Jaglu, and others, is a clear conflict of interest due to the pending election petition appeal.
Yep.
It is improper, inappropriate, and unethical. To meet with the installed government is poor judgment on the part of the current judge of the highest court. He's the president of the highest court, right? And in every case, if I'm gonna use a phrase by Drew, I dare say that has gone before the CCJ on this matter, his dissenting voice, right, has been the loudest and sharpest,
thunderous,
right? And to see him meeting with Irfan Ali and team like this, I mean, it would boggle the mind to say that you should continue to repose confidence, right? And again, on our affiliate program Twitter, 2 nights ago, we had senior counsel Royce Ford and Selwyn Peters.
Correct.
And they were walking us through, we got a petition update from them that, the Attorney General, Anand Dalal, just asked the Court of Appeal locally for leave to file their appeal. And their substantive argument was that the Court of Appeal doesn't have jurisdiction to hear the petition matter. So they're going to the CCJ. And then when you see the CCJ president paying these kinds of courtesy call, right? I mean, I don't know what would get into his mind to God to do something like this. You could parse it however you want to parse it. Now is not the time in a nation on a razor's edge like this for the president of the CCJ to be playing courtesy calls. I can understand if there's a big CARICOM meeting the CCJ president is there, and you have a running, and they agree. But you come in the country for one purpose, and you go out of it. Is he here for the National Day prayer? He goes out of his way for a courtesy call. Like, what would get in his mind, Twitter? Instinctively, and if I am wrong, the constitution of this country that talks about conflict of interest is wrong. There are judicial norms and practices and code of conduct as well, right? You know, the former CCJ justice of the CCJ. Let me put it rightly. What's her name? Ketanji Bernard.
Yes.
Was it? Wrote an extensive piece on the conduct of judicial officers, right? Again,
I'm sure that
you don't want to be you don't want the perception of bias. There's a whole school of thought. You call it jurisprudence on bias, right? And to shun the appearance of bias, the very appearance. And so you had Ketanji Bernard again writing extensively on, even though you have a private life, correct, judges must look at who they align with, basically, to put it in layman's terms, you know, who they associate with, you know, where they hang out. And so, you know, any judge, I think, would want to socialize and say, I'm going to take a little something by what do you call it? By Palm Court, right? But then what's the perception when, you know, somebody might see Justice somebody in Palm Court and walk over to say hi?
Yeah.
Right? What if Roger Can walks over and say hi to the Chief Justice in Palm Court if she chooses to go and hang out there? The perception of it, the thing looks bad.
Anyone, you know?
Right?
But
it boggles my mind. I don't know.
What is mind-boggling is the fact that no thought was put into the fact that a perception is now out there and created. No one thought that this is a conflict of interest. No one thought twice about how the people of the country are going to receive this image. No one thought about that.
Julia,
so it says clearly that no one cares.
We had a situation here. We had a situation here, which has cemented for me, never take anything as face value. And people are always looking after their own interests. Remember, we had a U.S. ambassador here. He signed off as U.S. ambassador one morning, and then he signed on as the head of a gold mining establishment. What was the fella's name, guys? What was the fella's name? You know, he was U.S. ambassador one morning, and then when his tour of duty, folks help me, I know some of you out there must know the fella's name. When he finished his tour of duty here, he signed on as head of a gold mining company right here. And you're thinking, what time during your official duties you had time to
do this,
to do all of this? Clearly, he had a lot of time on his hands, right? And he was a high official. And you're thinking all he's doing here is transacting U.S. business and U.S. interest.
You waste the whole thought.
But he had a retirement parachute. Was a chubby guy, heavy. Burly guy. What was his name?
I cannot remember his name, but we know of that situation very well.
Don't even have my phone.
I do not remember his name.
What was the fellow? Right? Holloway. Is it Perry?
Perry Holloway.
Perry Holloway was the fella's name. Sign off as U.S. ambassador one day. So when these guys come, you know, there's a calypso that says jacket and tie is Big Mama guy. You see them and you say, oh, they're respectable, there's people. But it's human nature, really and truly, right? Look out for number one. He wanted to make sure he had something to do when he was finished. But right in the same country, he had his tour of duty. He signed on to the gold establishment afterwards. What time he had to make all of those deals to looking after those interests? And so when you see again images that we saw yesterday, you can't help but to question. Right? You know, there's a Caribbean leader, Twitter, trying to remember his name, out of Barbados, who says that you cannot be afraid to ask questions just because they're dangerous questions.
Definitely.
And this applies to you very much so. He said because when you fail to do so, to ask questions just because they're dangerous questions, right, you become dishonest.
Correct.
And a dishonest scholar is a menace to society.
Mm-hmm.
That's what he said. Can't remember the name of the fellow again. Out of Barbados. Read it in a book many years ago. His biography. He says you cannot be afraid to ask questions because they are dangerous questions. Because when you do that, you become dishonest. And a dishonest scholar is a menace to society.
Yes.
Right? And
correct.
there's some questions that needs to be asked.
That is correct. That is
Right?
correct.
And they said that you got to, is the in looking at bias, I think one of the tests, I must ask Kemraj and our lawyers, Roy Zilford and so on, when they come on, right? There's a test for bias, especially like this. It's not whether there is actual bias, they say in law. It's what the reasonable person would think when they see something like this happening. When they see something like this.
I'm glad you said a reasonable
what
person.
What would the man in the street think?
Mm-hmm.
When he knows a case has to come before this fellow.
Yeah.
But yet, look, he's shaking hands with one side.
Yeah.
Right? Of the thing there, what would the reasonable person think?
Well, what I can say that half of the country,
Like I fed up.
half of the country is now thinking that they have no confidence in the system moving forward. That is what I can tell you.
And who has created that perception? That
Yep.
is what the argument is in the jurisprudence. It's not even the actual bias,
Yeah.
It's not whether Justice Sanders is compromised.
It's a perception.
Right? It's not whether they discussed the case. Who knew what they discussed? There was no video, there's just photographs. Who knew what was discussed there?
Yeah.
Right? I saw a lot of smiling faces. I don't know if that means we get this thing in the bag, you don't worry. Right? We got this thing. Right? It's the appearance of it.
And
It's the perception of it.
We have to continue to say that they created that perception. They put it out there. And I dare say again, it's because they live and
Yep.
they operate as though they just don't care.
Yeah, I see an important comment there by one Alan Finance, and I think that looks important to me. Let me see if I can get it back. Am I going back? Yeah. Am I going back too far?
I think so. I think you went back way too far. Just
Yeah.
put it down a little bit.
Yeah. I don't know. It might have to. I don't know if you can hear us. Just repost it to us.
Yes.
Repost it for us. It looks important. The test is what the reasonable man. I mean, I didn't pay attention in every class I went to, but some of them are a little tired and so on. But one and two of them, right? What were the reasonable? And Alan has been doing his research for us. He says MacArthur versus MacArthur says the test for bias is that judges are presumed to be impartial, and the test for apprehension of bias establishes a high threshold. Very important, right? Are you seeing that? I would love for you to read it. Some of the stuff we have here blocking the come. But again, I think the base of it, ever remember law and jurisprudence? Well, what would the reasonable man say when they are confronted with this scene, with this picture? What would the reasonable man say? I think we got a lot of reasonable people in this country. A lot of reasonable people. Just think if same CCJ Justice, Adrian Sanders, had come and paid a course he called On Aubrey Norton Alone. On Aubrey Norton Alone. Right? Them guys would have had their, what do you call them, the lobbyists in Biden's ear today.
My goodness.
Right? But we must just accept that as just a norm. This is a new norm for Caribbean life. Right? Them is social distancing anymore, Everything is there.
I want to actually go through the rest of the comment that Sharon was reading, because indeed it is an important one. I see that comment being posted here by Alan Finance, and it went on to say that judges are presumed to be impartial, and the test for apprehension of bias establish a high threshold. It requires that any apprehension of bias to be a reasonable one, held by reasonable and right-minded persons.
Yep. It is not, I remember that so clearly. It is not whether there's actual compromise, whether the person would got the propensity, the capacity, is right standing or not. Right? It is the appearance of it, the perception that it could be that taints the whole process. Right? Who knows? I don't know. They can publish the video, what was discussed. what was said. I saw a lot of smiling faces. I vexed already.
You vex. I was. When you're at such levels, when you are at such a level, you do not make those ill judgment altogether. It was severely
That is
ill-timed.
bad judgment.
It's a horrible
Unjustice on
judgment.
this part.
Absolutely
Poor
horrible
bad judgment
on his part. And I think that I dare say that he needs to come out and actually basically give an
What warranted that? What warranted at this critical juncture? 2 elections petition.
yes.
Right? That could say that this very regime, and will say this very regime is illegal, coming before the CCJ, right? Unless he's going to tell us he's retiring tomorrow or something like that. And even so, it's still bad.
Yeah.
It's
Horrible.
Pamela Dover says a picture tells 1,000 words, right? And Vern Brown says Justice Sanders is grossly compromised. Yep.
Yeah, but that is the perception that he gave.
Yeah.
That is the perception that he gave. I mean, you have to face these he has to face these consequences right now, because no one sent him there. He made a decision to go there and meet, have pictures, and have those pictures circulated, knowing full well the state of our country right now, and the case that is before the CCJ. So he knew all of these things before he went and have that meeting. So whatever comes after is things that he should have expected, he should have calculated for that to be the perception, because that's the perception he decided to give to the people of this country.
And it's not only pertaining, if you even remove the cases of the elections petition. Remember, CCJ again interprets the revised treaty of Chagaramas. You had Suriname, I think, recently, in the recent past, contended with us that the common external tariff that we were applying to them was unfair. That matter came before the CCJ as well. How does Suriname feel to see this chumminess? How would any CARICOM country feel to see this kind of chumming? A courtesy call. I don't see courtesy calls on Andrew Holness, and courtesy calls on Mia Motley, and courtesy calls. What's happening here, folks? Soon as I start pumping courtesy calls. That being said, folks, I think that's our time. Am I premature?
Actually, I wanted to add something. So, guys,
add something, please.
Just bear with me.
Add something.
A lot of times, we like to give a little bit of evidence and background and other views as it comes to these matters, because we come and we have these discussions and we try our best to put all the perceptions out there. We try to bring it together and give it to you so you have a holistic view of what is going on. And it says here, we're looking at the test was forced. We're talking about the test of bias and all of that, and it is saying that the test would an informed person viewing the matter realistically and practically, and having thought the matter through, conclude. What would they conclude? Conclude this. Conclude that. What would a person, an informed person that is viewing the matter realistically and practically, and haven't thought the matter through, what would that person conclude? And that is how you're doing with a test of bias, right?
They would conclude that Justice Sanders is an honorable man.
Basically what they're saying is hard evidence is not needed.
That's what I'm saying.
An informed person, exactly. Hard evidence is not needed. Yes.
The perception of it. Right? How the thing look to the ordinary person.
So no one can come. That's a fact. That's the point we're trying to get over. And Sheridan is saying it on point. Every point you make, I gotta say that this particular discussion, you have been on point every word that you said. Right? So I have to give kudos to Sheridan for that bit of discussion this morning. But it is basically saying that no one is to come and say, well, there's no evidence that this was it. There is no requirement for hard evidence, because the perception is there. Saying if an informed person, when viewing the matter, in this case, when viewing the photograph, an informed person, someone that knows the case and the history, the state of our country right now, when viewing this photograph that we are seeing circulating right now, looking at it realistically and practically, what is the conclusion that they will draw to their minds, right? You don't have any requirement for hard evidence to be presented. And this is a test of bias.
Think about it. Somebody catches a photograph of me, right? Coming out of Freedom House.
Oh my God.
Right? Don't contact buyout.
Yep.
Duncan Gun. It's PPP.
They don't care if you went and,
No.
and cuss out the people in Freedom House, right?
Yeah.
No one cares.
No.
Exactly.
Right? Duncan Gun.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You got Wachi.
Mm-hmm.
You got. That's it. Is the perception. And that photograph that we show there as we close the program. Right? It's trouble.
Yep.
That's trouble, right? They set up like rain and the government walk into it and Sanders walk into it. I ain't surprised with the government, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And I didn't even think I should be surprised with Sanders because I've read a lot of his writings. Right? And a lot of it indicated he believes in social engineering. The code got to set the tone of society. Right? I'm not surprised, but I'm surprised. All in the same vein.
Not surprised, but extremely disappointed.
Yes.
Extremely disappointed. I
Yeah.
think that is my feelings towards the matter. I believe I'm disappointed, and I believe that it is disrespectful altogether because it further concretes the idea that the current administration believes that they can do whatever and there will be no repercussion to their actions. That is the
we don't need to consult with nobody.
Yeah.
Government don't need to consult with nobody. The Attorney General said it. In the Wales, it was reported. Government don't need to consult with nobody. Who they have a consult with to sit down and talk? You know, not glass with the president of the CCG. They ain't got to consult with nobody. That's it.
Yeah. Sad state of affair. Disappointed. Disrespectful.
Yeah.
All those.
I would like to see the answers of the meeting, the minutes of the meeting, the verbatim minutes of the meeting.
The country would like to see it.
Yeah. That being said, folks, good to have you folks with us.
Candy, Nalini, Inderjeet.
We done now. We're done
this morning. Diane, Graves, Zandy. So many persons on with us this morning. I am not going to attempt
Eglinton.
I am not going to attempt that last name, Lambert. Marine, Chester, Paul. You know, Marine have a lot
Amabel
of
Clement here too.
She's there, and Deborah Clark.
Yeah, Amabel Clement is here. Good to see you guys. Good to see you. Join us on the podcast as well. More discussion. More discussion. We have to dig into. We got to unpack this one here. Right? We got to unpack this one here. We're gonna invite a couple folks. We have a couple folks lined up for the podcast. You don't want to miss that. We're gonna unpack this one here. This one here.
That particular matter.
We're gonna unpack this one.
I think Sharon started the unpacking.
Unpack this one.
This morning it was quite an unpacking. I dare say that we will continue.
In the vein of my colleague Randolph Kitchener, we're gonna unpack this. My brother, we'll unpack this here in the podcast. See you guys at 12.
Have a good day, guys.